What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Today we're back out here with another boots on the ground video for you. Getting out of my cave, out of the podcast studio, and we're out here on the beautiful Lake Okeechobee here in Florida. This is the old stomping grounds for my family. My grandpa grew up out here. He grew up on a shack right out on the side of the lake on the bank, and in high school he used to play football barefoot. And when they had to play other teams, they had to force them to take off their shoes as well because it's a very poor area, but it's cool to get out here, see your family roots, check out some cool history. Now, if you count the Great Lakes, the 5 Great Lakes up north, this would be the 10th biggest lake in America. But if you don't count those 5 Great Lakes, this is the 5th biggest lake. So this is a giant lake. It's the biggest lake in Southeast America. But it's interesting, it's only about 8 to 10 feet deep on average throughout the lake. So this is a very shallow lake. As you can see right out there, there's a little fishing skiff, maybe trying to catch some lunch or dinner for later today. But this is what old Florida looks like. This lake is absolutely beautiful. It's teeming with wildlife. There's gators everywhere. And if you've ever read the book, A Land Remembered, it is my absolute favorite book of all time. I've read it like 3-4 times. It's amazing. But Lake Okeechobee is a huge portion of that book, especially with Saul McIvy's story. He is the 3rd generation in the McIvy family that takes place in the book, and he lives on Lake Okeechobee. He's a huge, influential figure in the community, develops it, makes farmland. He gets a lot of hate from the local community for it, but he's really one of the early developers. It's a fictional story with, real historical events, but one of the major historical events that take place in the book that actually took place in real life was the Great Hurricane of 1929 that absolutely decimated this area. Now, the 1928 hurricane crossed over this lake, directly over the lake, absolutely destroying the area, killing thousands, massive storm surge, massive floods in the area. Initially, the Red Cross reported roughly 1,800 deaths from the hurricane, but in 2003, the National Weather Service increased that to 2,500. So we don't really know how many people died, but it was in the thousands, and it was detrimental to this area. And that's a huge portion of the book. Saul's wife, I forget her name, but she actually died in the hurricane. It was a very sad piece in the book, and it's a huge piece of history in this area. There's actually a mass burial site right down the road where they buried hundreds of African Americans in a mass burial site from the hurricane. So really cool piece of history. Really sad piece of Florida history out here on Lake Okeechobee. And if you want to check out, a cool fictionalized story around that, check out A Land Remembered. I'm going to link it in the description. It is my favorite book of all time. Really cool piece of Florida history. Really shows you what it was like before Florida was really developed, when those Florida crackers were out here just trying to survive, building Florida. Now, there's actually a really famous battle that took place out here, the Battle of Lake Okeechobee. It's the bloodiest battle of the Second Seminole Wars, where a group of men led by future President Zarachary Taylor led an army down here to root out the Seminole Indians as part of the Indian removal policy, and because they did some bad stuff as well, instigated it. And we're going to go over to that battlefield right now, actually, and we're going to check it out, and we're going to tell you about the history of the Battle of Lake Okeechobee. So I'm here now at the site of the Battle of Lake Okeechobee. And like I mentioned earlier, this is where future President Zarachary Taylor led roughly 800 men down through Florida, and he clashed here with about 400 entrenched Seminoles ready to defend their homeland. In 1830, as we know, President Andrew Jackson enacted his Indian removal policy, and he wanted to move all the Indians east of the Mississippi River west over to Oklahoma and other lands such. And the Seminole Indians resisted that. They didn't want to be moved, and this led to the Seminole Wars, and especially the Second Seminole Wars, the bloodiest of the three. And this is the Battle of Lake Okeechobee, which was the bloodiest battle in the Second Seminole Wars. So in 1835, Seminole warriors under the command of Osceola killed a U.S. Army officer, an Indian agent, and about 100 of his men in what was known as Dade's Massacre, or the Battle of Dade. And this is what sparked the Second Seminole War. This is what prompted President Zarachary Taylor, future President Zarachary Taylor, to march down here and root them out. And this battle took place on Christmas Day in 1837. So 2 years after the Dade Massacre, he led them out here. And right here on this battle, right around this time actually, it was 12:30 p.m., Christmas Day. So after wading through muck and tall grass, Zarachary Taylor and his 800 men finally encountered the entrenched Seminoles here, about 400 of them, and this battle ensued, and there were about 40 casualties, about 130 wounded, and the Seminoles retreated in canoes into Lake Okeechobee River. Now, as you can tell, Lake Okeechobee is not behind me, and this is because landscapes change over time. There's been dikes and levees built, so this is very different. So back in 1837, Lake Okeechobee would have been in this area, and this is the battle where Zarachary Taylor earned his infamous nickname, Old, Rough, and Ready. And that is what he is known for, at least to me. That is a very infamous nickname for Zarachary Taylor. And after this battle, he was promoted to Brigadier General, where he would later serve in the Mexican-American War and cement his legacy as one of the greatest generals in American history, and then later become president and die after only a year in office. But it's very cool to come out here and see these battlefields. Just a couple days ago, there was a massive battle being fought out here over territorial disputes and Indian removal. And it's a very important piece of Florida history. Born and raised in Florida, so this is very important to me. And it's really cool to come out here and see my roots and check out these places that shaped and formed the state that I live in and that I love. That wraps up the video, guys. That is now our second boots on the ground travel history video out here in Florida. First one was St. Augustine, so make sure to go check that one out. That one was really cool. There's a lot of stuff to see in the oldest city in America. But if you liked the video, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button below. Make sure to check out our podcast up in the corner, where we post weekly episodes interviewing best-selling authors, expert historians, and combat veterans. Make sure to check out our Patreon so you can support the channel and allow us to do more travel videos like this. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you on our next adventure.